biotic and the abiotic factors. Now, if I want to look at the examples of ecosystem, we have studied what ecosystem is. Now, what are the examples that we can take or talk about the ecosystem? So let us look at them. So you write down
Forest,
examples of. Hmm?
forest is an example of
Very
ecosystem.
good. Yeah, it is. Definitely it is. A forest is an example. A pond is an example of an ecosystem, meaning where all the living and non-living will be interacting with each other. Okay. Then
Yes.
even the grasslands are an ecosystem. Very good.
And what
Okay.
about lakes?
What about what?
Lakes.
Lakes. See,
Yes,
in the lake, usually there is no organism living, right? Sometimes the fishes live. See, wherever there is the organism living in that area, okay, that is an ecosystem. Okay, so if in the lake you find the organism, then that is the lake ecosystem. Okay, now if we show the whole ecosystem thing in the form of a flow chart, okay, so if we want to show so that it'll be easier to remember. So the ecosystem has two components. We already know there is the abiotic one, but the most important that we will actually be focusing on are the biotic factors. So let us talk about amongst those biotic factors. We know that the plants and animals are the biotic factors, but amongst them also there are certain groups. Okay, they have been divided into groups. So if you want to look at the groups, so the first biotic group is producers. Okay, then the next is consumers, and the third and last group is decomposers. Okay, now as the name suggests, the producers will produce something, isn't it?
yes, ma'am.
Hmm. Now, if the producers are producing something, do you know what are those organisms that can make their own food?
Plants,
Plants. So plants are the biggest producers in the world. Okay, and then consumers are all those organisms
animals
that
and human
actually.
beings.
Hmm,
Animals and human beings are consumers.
yeah, basically all those organisms that feed upon the producers, or you can say that depend upon the producers directly or indirectly. Can you explain how directly and indirectly?
Ma'am, directly means like they take the food by the producers.
Okay, example.
Indirectly, indirectly means they feed upon the another organism.
Very good, you're very close to the right answer. See, basically when the consumers, they actually eat the plant, such as a deer. Isn't a deer a like consumer, because deer eats grasses and stuff? So
Yes,
the deer being a consumer is directly dependent on the producer, which is the plant. But
yes,
again, if we talk about, let's just say the tiger eats the deer, which
yes,
eats the plant. So the tiger is indirectly dependent on the plant, isn't it? Because
yes,
if the plants will not be there, then the deers will die. If the deers will die, then the tigers will not have anything to eat. You getting my point?
yes, ma'am.
Yes, very good. Now see, those are your consumers. Now talking about the decomposers, do you know what is decomposition?
Like when the human beings are
Hmm.
being buried, they get decomposed or
Yeah, what
things
is
which are biodegradable getting decomposed.
yeah,
Like
very
they
good.
are being,
Hmm. What
they
but
are
what is
being,
the meaning of decomposition?
they're being used for the soil purpose.
Hmm. See, you are very close. See, basically decomposition is nothing but when the decaying of material, meaning the plant part or the dead organism, they start decaying. Okay, meaning when the organic matter, it complex organic matter is broken down to simpler organic matter, inorganic matter. So that is
Yes,
decomposition. Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, so these are the components that come under the biotic factor. Okay, now see, under this consumer, we have three different types. So first one is the primary consumer. Primary consumers are the ones that are directly dependent on the plants. Okay, so primary consumers. So under that, you'll have the example as to all the herbivores. Isn't it? All the herbivores eat the plants?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now, after that, you'll have secondary consumers. Now, these secondary consumers, they actually eat the herbivores, isn't it? So,
Yes,
they
ma'am.
are known as the primary carnivore. They are carnivores, but what type? So, they are primary carnivores. Okay,
But they depend on herbivores, right?
directly, yes. But there is a third, you can say, a different, the third one is the tertiary consumer. The third case is tertiary consumers. Now here, in this case, what will happen? There will be the presence of secondary carnivores.
Ma'am, can you explain again
Yes,
what
I
is
will.
primary carnivore
Yes.
and secondary carnivore
See,
means?
listen, we know that the herbivores, they are primary consumers, right? They eat the plants directly. Now see, there are two types of organ. For example, if there is like a grasshopper, okay, a
Yes.
grasshopper eats the grass, okay, and the grasshopper gets eaten by the bird, like for example, a small bird is eating the grasshopper, okay, and this small bird is getting eaten up by a bigger bird like a vulture. Okay, so here the small bird will be the primary carnivore which is directly feeding on the herbivore, that is the grasshopper. And that vulture is the secondary carnivore because it is feeding upon the primary carnivore.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
Yes,
the
ma'am.
herbivores feed upon the plants, the primary carnivores they feed upon the herbivores, and the secondary carnivores they feed upon the primary. Got
Yes,
it?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, let us talk about what is like the different mode of nutrition in the case of animals and plants. This much you've understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Have you like noted it down?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, just one second. All right. So, after we've discussed the whole thing, now let us write the language about the producers, consumers, and everything. So now you can give, after making the chart, you can give the heading as to producers. Now let us talk about the producers. Okay. Now under producers, you write down all green plants. Okay. All green plants. Mark my words. Only the green plants can make their own food. Okay. So all green plants, comma, blue green algae, all green plants, comma, blue green algae can produce their own food. They can produce their own food from, they can produce produce their own food from inorganic from inorganic substances using light energy. Using the light energy. Okay, and since they can actually make their own food, they are known as producers, isn't it? Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
you write down, since they make their own food, since they make their own food, They are known as producers. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you can write another point as to they are also called as autotrophs. Okay. Autotrophic mode of nutrition. If somebody asks you, what would you say? What is it?
The plants, the green plants, which they make their own food in the presence of light energy.
Hmm, exactly. This mode of nutrition is autotrophic
Mhm.
mode of nutrition, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm. Now see, plants we know are present on the land, isn't it? Now there are many organisms that are present in the water. So if we talk about the aquatic plants, okay, they also do photosynthesis. They
Yes,
also are the producers. So there is, you can write down, in case of aquatic habitats or aquatic ecosystem, okay, in the case of aquatic ecosystems, planktons are present. Planktons, planktons are the producers, producers or the autotrophs. Okay,
yes, ma'am.
yes, they are known as planktons and plants on the land, planktons in the water. Okay, now these planktons are of two types. The first one is phytoplanktons. Okay, and the second one is zooplankton.
Now, what is phytoplankton?
Yes, I will explain each of them. See, phyto, anywhere if you see phyto means plants. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so you write down about phytoplankton. See, all those microscopic plants that are present in the water. Okay, and they freely float in the water or on the surface of water. They are known as phytoplankton. Okay, so you write down the microscopic, meaning very small. You can see them only with the help of microscopes. Okay, so the
Yes, ma'am.
microscopic aquatic plants, the microscopic aquatic plants freely float on the surface of water and are called as phytoplanktons and are called as phytoplankton. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, they are microscopic. Okay, now if phyto means plants, then what do you think zoo means?
Animals.
Yeah, animals. So then you write down here that the microscopic aquatic animals, animals freely floating in the water, freely floating on the surface of water are called as zooplankton. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
yes. If you want, you can give one example of protozoa. Protozoa is an example of freely floating zooplankton. Okay,
Ma'am, protozoa are very tiny in nature, right?
yeah, microscopic. You cannot see it with your naked eye. You can't see it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all right. Now you are clear with the producers. isn't it? The land ones also and the water ones also.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, very good. Now let us move on to the second, that is the consumers. So you can now put the heading as to consumers, and let us talk about the consumers. Okay, now the consumers, you can write them like they are the organism, they are the organisms which consume other organism or their products as their food. Okay, meaning either they feed upon the other organism or they feed upon the product of those organisms. They use it as their
Ma'am,
food.
directly, right?
Hmm?
Directly, right?
Yes, directly and indirectly, both of them are there. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So all the animals are consumers, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
So you can put the example as to all the animals are consumers. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now, if we want to actually classify the consumers, now we already know primary consumer, secondary consumer, but on a broader level. Okay, if we want to divide consumers, let us see what are the different types of consumers. So the first one you already know, that is your herbivore, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, herbivores. Now, after that, there are carnivores.
Primary carnivores.
Hmm?
Primary carnivores.
Primary carnivores are like the herbivores only, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And then there is secondary carnivore also, right? And this carnivore is the secondary carnivore only. Now, consumers can also be parasites and they can also be omnivores. Do you know what is omnivore?
I exactly forgot the definition.
Okay. See, omnivores are those organisms that eat both plant and animal, such as crow. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So let us quickly talk about all these organisms. So you already know about herbivores, right? Meaning they
Yes,
eat
ma'am.
on the plant, right? Like eat the plants directly. So they are
Yes,
known as the primary consumers, isn't it?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So you give the heading herbivores. Okay, you give the heading herbivores and then you write these are the organisms these are the organisms that feed on the plants. That feed on the plant directly. Okay. Then you can also write down that they are also known as primary primary consumer. Primary consumers or first order consumers. The meaning is the same. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Primary consumers and first order consumer, the meaning is same. Okay. Do
Ma'am,
you have any doubts?
ma'am,
Hmm.
They say that green plants and certain bacterias are there which can produce their own food. Like bacterias can also produce their
Hmm.
own.
Yes. Bacteria, see, there are many bacteria that actually does not use sunlight, but they use other chemical energy to make their own food. Okay. So some of the bacteria, they are autotrophic.
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm. Any doubt?
No, ma'am, that's it.
Okay. Now can you give me some examples of herbivores?
Deer,
Yes, deer, then
um,
rabbits,
rabbits, sheep.
yes, goat, isn't it? Goat is there, cattle is there, all of them are the herbivores. Now let's talk about the carnivores. So under carnivores, you write down these are the organisms which consume other organisms. Okay, now can you already know that they are known as the secondary consumer, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Secondary consumer, but when they feed on the other animals, they are known as the primary carnivore. For example, when there are animals which prey upon the primary carnivores, right? Then they are known as the secondary carnivore,
Yes, ma'am.
isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you write down carnivores that feed on the flesh of herbivores. Carnivores that feed on the flesh of herbivores are called as, what are they called as?
Primary carnivores.
Very good. They are known as primary carnivores. Okay. Now let's just take an example such as you can write down snake, then frogs, some fishes are also there. Okay. Then you write down jackal. These are your examples. Now, this is one point. Now, another point is that there are carnivores. Okay, all those carnivores that feed on the primary carnivore. What are they known as?
Secondary carnivores.
Very good.
Ma'am, I have a doubt, ma'am.
Tell me.
In the class, they taught us that Scorpios, right? They
Hmm.
feed on trees, and this Scorpios fish is being fed by the Scorpios. Like I didn't get it exactly when they thought about this primary and secondary carnivores.
They said that the scorpions they eat the grass.
Yeah,
Okay, and then what happens to the scorpion?
the fish will eat the scorpion.
Oh, okay. Hmm. Yes, it's exactly the case. Like how I told you, like the grasshopper eats the grass, and
Yes,
then the tiny bird eats the grasshopper, and then a big bird eats the tiny bird. So it is
yes,
just like that. Okay.
yes,
Primary consumer, which is your herbivore, when it will get eaten by a secondary consumer,
yes, ma'am.
right? That will be known as the primary carnivore, right? And
Yes,
when
ma'am.
this primary carnivore will get eaten by another type of carnivore, then they will be known as the secondary carnivores. Done?
Yes.
Got it?
Yes, ma'am. Got it.
Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Very good. Okay, so they are called as secondary carnivores. Okay, now let's just see some of the examples of secondary carnivores. So here the examples such as that, like
Tiger.
hmm,
Tiger.
hmm, tiger, lion. Okay, then there is
Eagle.
yeah, eagle, vulture, all of them. Okay, these are your examples for secondary carnivores. Up till now, is everything clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now see, in this thing only, there is a very unique thing. Okay. Now, do you know any organism which will, like, the lion eats the deer and the deer eats the grass? Now, do you know any organism that will eat the lion? Hmm?
Lion. They die. They are the last to
Yeah,
die.
right. They died. Nobody eats a lion, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So see, all those all animals or all those carnivores which are not eaten up by any other organism, they are known as the top carnivores. Okay, such as the lion.
Yes,
Are
ma'am.
you getting my point?
Yeah, ma'am. I got it.
Yes. So you write down the carnivores which which are not preyed upon by any which are not preyed upon by any other carnivore are called as top carnivores. Okay, and the example you already know, it is the lion. Okay, this is the example.
Ma'am,
Done. Hmm?
what will happen in the case of human beings?
In the human beings, like you are asking, what are we?
Yes, ma'am. We are also top carnivores.
Yeah, we are also top carnivores in one way. Nobody eats us, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Gladly, nobody eats us. So, yes, we are the top carnivores. We are also in the lion area only. But the lion can eat us, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, but when the lion is hungry, not usually, we are not the lion's favorite food, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So in one way, we can say that we are the secondary carnivore. Okay, because we feed upon the primary carnivore, isn't it?
Yes. Yes,
Like
ma'am.
chickens and goats and stuff. But
Yes.
we may be a top carnivore in a broader sense because nobody eats us in a food chain. Nobody eats us, right? See,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
lion, when it eats the deer, it is a law, isn't it? In the
Yes.
nature only, it is there naturally. But the
Yes.
lion eating humans is not there naturally, right? It
Yes, ma'am.
happens by chance if any encounter is there. Yes. So we can come in both the categories. We can come in the secondary consumer also, secondary carnivore also, and we can come in the top carnivores also. Got
Yes,
it?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Very good. Now let us talk about the other type, which is the omnivores. Omnivores. Now all those that feed organisms that feed upon both plants and animals. Okay, when they feed upon both plants and animals, they are called as omnivores. Okay. Now, you might have seen that, let's just say, like, we are also omnivores, isn't it? Like, we eat vegetables also, we eat meat also. So, both of the diet we are having, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So, we can say human beings are, you can write down example as to human beings.
Ma'am, they say giraffe is omnivore.
Giraffe.
Yeah.
No, no, giraffe is strictly herbivores. Have you ever seen giraffe eating any animal?
In my notes, I studied, they gave it as omnivore. Giraffe
Hmm?
is omnivore, so
I don't think so because giraffe, they don't even eat insects or birds or anything.
they
Giraffes are
eat only
herbivores.
grass.
Hmm?
They eat only grass, ma'am.
Not actually grass, deer. They eat taller tree leaves because
Yeah,
their
ma'am.
neck is so long. Okay.
Yeah.
But they never eat any other organism. So they are herbivore. Okay. But if you
Yeah.
talk about a crow, okay, you might have seen a crow. Now the crow would eat the seed of the plant. Apart from that, it would also, you might have seen, like, the crows are supposed, like, they eat flesh also. Okay. So crow and human beings. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, let us talk about the decomposers. We are done with the producers. Now we are done with the consumers. Now let's talk about the decomposers. Okay, so in this, the two most common example of decomposers are fungi and bacteria. Okay, both of these are major decomposers. Now, what do they do? Is that you write down organisms organisms which break down, okay, which break down slash decompose. Decompose means break down only. Okay, which
Yes, ma'am.
break down slash decompose dead plants, dead plants, comma animals into, you can like see, dead plants, animals, complex compounds, complex compounds into simpler ones or simple ones. Okay, so they take a complex compound and they change it into a simple one. And this is done, like, um to make, like, you can say, this is the whole process of decomposition. Okay, decomposing is only happening when the microorganisms such as fungi, such as bacteria, they are acting upon the dead plants and animals, and then they turn them into simple substances. So that is your decomposers. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's talk about what is the importance of decomposers. Decomposer, they are very important. Okay. So you write down importance of decomposers. Okay. Now see, how are they important? So first of all, when the decomposers, they help in the disposal of the plants and animal, isn't it? Because they are digesting them. So, in one way, we can say that the decomposers clean the environment,
Yes, ma'am.
isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Apart from that, when I'm saying that the decomposers would turn the complex compound into simple ones. For example, a plant is made up of, like, it has glucose as a food product. Okay. Now, when glucose can be broken down, then you'll get carbon, you'll get hydrogen, you'll get oxygen. So these are simpler compounds, isn't it? And when
Yes,
they come together, they make C6H12O6. But if you
Yes.
break down, then you'll have 6 carbon, you'll have 12 hydrogen, and you'll have 6 oxygen. So when glucose is broken down, we'll have the simpler compounds. So basically, the minerals are being released, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And since it is done in the soil, decomposition is done in the soil always. So
Yes, ma'am.
when all the minerals are releasing, so just imagine the soil is getting fertile, isn't it? Many minerals are being released into it. The
Yes, ma'am.
soil is being fertile. Then the third point, or the next point, is that because they produce so many minerals, they also make like the soil fit for agriculture, isn't it? So these are the ways by which decomposers are extremely important. Is this much clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Then you write down the first importance, that they help they help in disposal or disposing the wastes and dead bodies of plants and animals. Okay, then you write down therefore they clean the environment. Therefore they clean the environment. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubt in this line?
No, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Now moving
When I
forward.
copy it down,
Hmm?
can you just scroll up for a minute, ma'am?
I can't hear you, dear.
Can you scroll up a bit, ma'am,
Oh,
please?
oh, yes, yes. Okay. Now, after doing this, after cleaning the environment, apart from that, they also release many minerals in the soil and enrich the soil fertility. Okay. Then comes, yes,
Ma'am, what is they after they release?
minerals. Minerals. Minerals.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And the third importance of decomposers is that they recycle the materials in the biosphere. Meaning, once the oxygen is released, the oxygen goes back to the atmosphere, right? Goes
Yes,
back
ma'am.
into the air. So they sort of recycle the materials in the biosphere. So now you know like why decomposers are so important.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, with this, we have completely done the biotic components of the ecosystem. Okay. Now, let us quickly talk about the abiotic components. Now, we already know that they are the non-living components. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, you write down abiotic components. Okay. Under that, you can write down these are the non-living components of ecosystem. These are the non-living components of the ecosystem. They include the physical, they include the physical environment. All of the physical environment that would be included in the abiotic components.
Aquarium is biotic or abiotic?
See, if aquarium is there, okay, without fishes and anything, then that is abiotic component, which is because only water is there. But if you put fishes in it and you put certain plants in it, aquatic plants, then it becomes an ecosystem. Okay, but the biggest thing here to remember is that this aquarium, it is not a natural ecosystem, it is a man-made ecosystem.
No,
Okay,
so overall, if the organisms are not there, they are abiotic.
see, the interaction between the biotic and abiotic is ecosystem, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
here, what is the abiotic component in the aquarium? The water is it, right? And
Yes,
then what is the biotic component? So fishes and the aquatic plants.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is what you were asking, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm. But if somebody asks you that what is an example of ecosystem, so first you give the examples of natural ecosystem such as ponds, lakes, rivers and stuff, and then you say that man-made ecosystem is aquarium.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, uh, let's just talk about. Okay, let me just check if they have described in very depth about the abiotic components in the book. Is there any portion given for the abiotic components in the book?
No, ma'am, only biotic they give.
Only biotic they've given, right?
Yeah, ma'am, and other activities affected by the only like they just gave the living organisms and the others are abiotic.
Okay, okay. All right. So now you the examples, so you already know, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am, and they gave about artificial ecosystem.
Yes. So the place where you have written about the ecosystem, go to that page, okay? And in that, when you wherever you have written forest, pond and grassland, you make it a natural. You like put it like this and you call it natural, and then you
Yes,
give few other examples such as aquariums, okay, such as the agricultural land like the crop field, okay.
ma'am, that's natural, right?
All of these are artificial ecosystem. Okay, so you can put a curly bracket and write down artificial, artificial or man-made ecosystem. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay. See, in this part, we have missed out one thing, that is biodegradable, degradable, non-biodegradable. So, in the next class, we'll be starting with biodegradable and non-biodegradable. Okay. And then we will move on to food chain and food web. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So, I'm just putting the heading so that I don't forget. Biodegradable. Okay. We'll start with
Yes,
here.
ma'am.
Now, do you have any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Now, see, if you have any doubts, you can collect your doubts, and in the next class, we'll clear them together. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right then. Okay, then I'll meet you in the next class. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Bye, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.